Hello and welcome everyone. Joe here from JCS-Charting. Numbers and patience do matter. I kept saying that for the last 2.5 months. I think a lot of market participants got kicked out there. We did not. We cashed in 13,770 bips in October by itself because we kept adding these corrective moves at DAX. That is our third best month of that whole total record here. It's all transparent at our Discord channel, and yeah, if you want to find out more about it, join us at www.jcs-charting.com. I tell you what happened and I tell you what's going to happen. Okay, let's jump straight into it. I haven't done a weekend update last week because I was away with the family in Italy. However, members got updated on a daily basis. This is here my Discord channel. Everything here is in order with the time frames, and the H4 was actually the master because we were breaking out of what I anticipated, and that worked out quite well. This here is, for instance, the H4 thread. I said that breakout should go at least to 24,500, and that was, I think the high was at 24,535. So that worked out pretty well. That was here my forecast. We had a new subcycle identified by SciPath, so that worked out pretty well as well. That was here kind of our last buying chance. That all happened on the 25th of September, and then here that projection worked out nicely. Here is where DAX started to take off. I gave my members that red resistance zone. I even posted that on X. And then on the, which day was it? The 29th. That was Monday, I believe. We touched that red resistance zone. We rejected in the first place. Then I came up with a different pattern, an inverted shoulder, head shoulder pattern where the right shoulder was missing. Even that worked out very nicely. And then our new subcycle got reconfirmed. So we kept buying these lows. I put that on X once again, and then that inverse shoulder, head shoulder pattern triggered. We had that fourth touch at that neckline. And I said the next major resistance is that resistance zone, which goes all the way up to 24,185, and these two levels, the green and the blue one, are trigger levels for higher. They got triggered straight away. First we pulled back into that green zone. I posted that again on X to rebuy, or it's probably the last rebuy opportunity. Yeah, and that is the outcome. I think there was no one else really on X, or I didn't see anyone else seeing that DAX breakout that early. Here's that Elliott count that got overshot then the next day. It broke straight out of that channel. So that little bump yeah, didn't happen. It just broke out straight away. We cleared the red resistance zone. And you see how many updates there are during the day or during the week. Here's the first target hit of that pattern, that inverse shoulder, head shoulder pattern. Here we got the 100% target hit, and you see how precise these levels work. There's always a little rejection. We triggered, by the way, both these sequences for higher. The minimum target of that blue sequence was 24,495. And by the way, I used that entire move to offload positions to yeah, cash out and to make money. Here's the latest count. That wouldn't be really fair, or actually I can show it. That's not the latest one. Here's an update of that count. What I assume now is that DAX is most likely pivoting above, or oscillating around that upper part of that channel's trend line or boundary. The gap here at 24,149 is very strong support. In case DAX drops a bit further down, in order to keep that count here alive, it needs to turn around here if we keep selling into Monday. What's also quite interesting is once we switch into the 5-minute chart, this is a JFD indication, so this runs all the time. That was a pre-market high at 24,536. And once we apply here the Elliott Wave accounting, we can see a clean 1, 2, 3. The 3 is subdivided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves. Again, here's wave 4 and wave 5. So most of the time there is a bounce after we see a complete impulse like that. So an A, B, C, probably into 24,500 or a bit lower before we see a similar leg like that as wave 4, what I have shown in the previous chart. And we switch into the daily chart. It's a Cetra indication, and here you see that entire bullish flag channel, which I have shown to my members somewhere while we were down here in the middle of September. We have closed two important gaps last week. The one here at 24,037, that was from that decline, and we closed another important gap here at 24,273. So we can delete that as well. And we have now two important, or actually one major gap open right here at 24,113, which I just said is a very strong support. And most of the time, if this is a wave 3 here, it stays open for quite a while, because that is a major identification of a wave 3 or a characteristic, whatever you want to call it. I also want you to pay attention on that green sequence here. 23,038 got triggered way back here in May. It triggered higher levels. We hit already the first mint target, 24,276, sometime in July before we made that all-time high. And 24,776 is the second mint target. It still has an 85% probability of being hit. That is still open. And we also have 25,850 as our 161 target. Now, while I zoom out here, a lot of people ask where we are. I consider that entire flag here we have seen for the last 2.5 months as a wave 4. This first impulse, you won't see it here as nicely as on the H4. That first impulse is the first wave, and then we did a pullback, and that was the start of wave 3. And wave 3 ended in a 1, 2. We had the 3 of 3 ended right here, just below the all-time high, 24,479. Then we pulled back in a wave 4 of 3, went up in wave 5. And now we had a very long correction. And most of the time, once we had a very quick and dirty wave 2, we have exactly opposite, a time-killing wave 4. And this is what happened for the last 2.5 months at DAX. So the final wave 5 is on, in my opinion. And we broke out already. We closed within that channel last week, and as I said at the beginning of my video, I assume a bit of oscillating, a breakout, a pullback once again, and I expect an extending wave 5 into the end of the year, and that can go anywhere. Just to let you know, this year is my last target from now on, but I believe we can even move higher if this is a serious blow off top into the end of the year at DAX. And DAX is that's what you also need to understand. In my point of view, in a total different stage than the US markets. The US markets are here. It doesn't mean they are moving sideways now for another 2.5 months. I assume they are doing a quick and dirty wave 4 for about 2 weeks before they launch their wave 5. So everything moves back in together once we come close to the end. We continue with NASDAQ. H4 chart, the cash indication, and here's what I even posted on X as well, also for the S&P 500. This here was the start, in my opinion, of wave 5. We had a slightly higher low, so this qualifies as a shakeout as wave 2. Then we had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We finished wave 3 or 5. We did a pullback into wave 4. And now on Friday, we hit the 100% target, 24,967, which is a duplication of the length of the first wave. The projection is giving us higher targets. That is due because NASDAQ likes to extend a wave 5 in most cases. That doesn't mean we run all the way up here. Once we break 24,200, most likely we are running into our big wave 4 into 23,000. Once we zoom out here, this is here my first wave, then we had an ABC as wave 2, and then that long wave 3 started. That is the first wave, then a small wave 2, then wave 3 of wave 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is subdivided into 5 waves again. And then we had, the wave 5 of 3, which we just talked about. So we are waiting for the big wave 4 before the last wave 5 is allowed to start into the end of the year. And one more chart where you see how accurate our zones or our levels work. We had that blue sequence here, by the way, that's triggered right here, and then we hit the first min target, the 127%. We pulled back in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's called a zigzag, by the way, and then we launched to the upside to hit the second min target at 24,940. I was shorting that initially right here, and I didn't take any profit out, and I got kicked at break even on that Friday again. I haven't shorted NASDAQ yet. I wanted to wait what's going to happen on Monday. If we see a surprisingly gap up again, we have a chance to squeeze higher. Just be aware of that. If we gap down or start selling immediately on Monday, we most likely have started the correction already. Yeah, the S&P 500 it's basically the same count as NASDAQ, so I won't show that again. We have a look at our sequences once again. We had the green 100%, it triggered right here. We hit the first min target on the dot, 6732. Pulled back to the 100% trigger, and then we went up again. I was buying, by the way, that dip here, and then I got a bit scared off before we were actually touching the second min target at 6746, and then we started selling off on Friday once again. That is, by the way, an hourly chart, not an H4 chart. This is usually the setup I give to my members. 6676, by the way, is a level for bears, which needs to be hit in order to continue momentum to the downside. If the S&P 500 stays above that level, the bullish momentum remains positive. So we have still chances to run even higher into the 161 at 6777. The Dow Jones got a broadening top pattern, and I said once it triggered right here, I provided my members with targets. That first min target got hit at 46,769, and I said after we were hitting that, usually a broadening top, sometimes it's a reversal pattern, but most of the times it breaks actually up, and it likes to oscillate around that upper trend line. This is exactly what happened. We reconfirmed and retested that line once, twice, three times, and we kept staying there for quite a while. And that touch here, what at the end of August, so the entire September, we actually stayed around and slowly kept moving up until we were hitting that target. We have a sequence at 46,919, which needs an H4 close above, but that failed on Friday. So the Dow might run into a correction as well. It needs to trigger that green sequence above 46,919 in order to get to the 100% target. And that Dow Theory divergence remains on for the 8th week in a row. We talked about that for the last couple of weeks, and this is actually a very strong selling sign developing over weeks or even month. You better take that serious because this is a long-term selling signal. It doesn't mean we are selling straight away. It means it needs to develop over time. The Dow Jones Industrial, they had a pop gun right here. It popped to the upside, and then with that candle the previous week it pulled back to that trigger to 45,785. So we can remove that. And we are waiting what's going to happen next week. I can tell you one thing, smart money started to sell on Friday already. But again, I assume this is a wave 4 of that entire impulse which started in April. There should be still a Santa rally coming up at the end of the year. Yeah, gold, I still have a lot of setups on the smaller time frames, but this is for members only. I just wanted to show you here one pattern which is quite interesting on the daily basis. I zoomed out back into December 2023, and once you count the tops from December 23 into May 24, into October 24, and you keep going into April of this year, you have an average of here 117 days, 118 days, 120 days. And if you now zoom in here, that gives you 120 days again. We are very close. Let's see where the all-time high was. That was at 117 days. 120 days would be on the 7th. If that pattern remains on, we probably see a pullback at gold, and probably a larger one, because I still expect a decline here of a larger cycle which runs a bit longer than 2.5 years. That means a correction here into probably to retest these highs has to be considered. Yeah, Ethereum, that was a great buy 2 weeks ago, also with Bitcoin and Solana. We were paying attention especially on Ethereum because that was a very clean correction as an A, B, C. That whole purple sequence completed, overshot a little bit. We were buying at that level, 3,851. Today we are at 4,540. All these setups I post in my intermediate trades of my Discord channel. It's all transparent. I give you the exit, I give you my entries. It's just basically what I do, what you do out of it. It's up to you. By the way, we triggered here, or we finished first of all that blue sequence. I took already half of my positions out here, and I'm still holding. I still hold a lot of positions from back in April. It was below 2,000. I bought somewhere at 1,500. I don't know the exact numbers. I can show you any minute. However, we triggered higher above 45.11. For min targets of 4,698 up to 4,774. Bonus target is 4,936, but I assume Ethereum is also going for new all-time highs like Bitcoin is already doing this weekend. And once again, this here is my Discord, and once you go into these intermediate trades, you see here my setups. I see, or you see here where I entered. This is here my where I actually went out on the Dow Jones. I tried a short here on DAX on Thursday. That was one day early. I got stopped out. Took me 170 points into the negative. Here was that NASDAQ short trial. And here are these massive DAX gains, plus 2,482, plus 3,393. And here somewhere also my crypto trades. Yeah, we're still holding from 108 or 108,900 from Bitcoin, and also from 76,000 out of April, and Ethereum also. A lot of calls right here. And also 2 positions from 2865. There's a chat room for everyone who has questions or wants an analysis. I did a few analyses last week on Coca-Cola, for instance. This is what it looks like. I usually write a text about it, or what is likely to happen. Here's TMO, another nice analysis, which, yeah, seems to work out. I got asked on Meter last week. I haven't done an update there for quite a while. Coinbase, yeah, I think Coinbase is going to break out heavily as well. And Google, we talked about that broadening top pattern as well. Yeah, that's about it for today. I hope you liked that video. Yeah, I would be happy if you leave me a like or a nice comment, and I see you next week again. I wish you a nice remaining Sunday. Bye bye.